perennial retard and disgraced liar comic book hut just launched a new campaign for a comic book. It's called Captain Galaxy in the Dawning. Very genius name, great name. Just launched a couple, or it looks like one day ago, so I think May 23rd, basically. About one day after the Literally 2 campaign ended. Maybe not a coincidence. I don't know. I believe in coincidences. I just don't trust them. But anyways, the E Lion or the Lion link this on our Discord for us to check out and peruse and enjoy, perhaps even to fund if you want to go donate to this. It's on Kickstarter and it's called Captain Galaxy. Again, just very creative, original name right there. Just looking at the art now, very nicely. It's first day. It already has $436 from 9 backers. Now, I don't really know the math on that. I don't know what 436 divided by 9 is. I mean, I guess I could get a calculator or something, but I know it's more than $5. So all 9 backers so far have basically paid more than $5 for a comic. In fact, I think I can go look at the pledges and stuff and say, oh, 0 backers on this, 2 backers for the $20 tier. So people are paying $20 for comic book Hut's comic now. For anyone who doesn't remember him or is not familiar with him, Comic Book Hut or whatever is a borderline retarded man who is morbidly obese, who embarrassed himself many times in the past, trying to basically rip off the style and the whole gig of Richard C. Meyer in that very low effort, low IQ takes on comics that are stuff that any idiot has noticed by like 5 or 6 years ago, and what's essentially warmed over parroting of what we had been saying 10 years earlier. But yeah, Comic Hut was a guy who I think most noticeable, aside from just him doing videos about really like moronic, irrelevant YouTuber drama about people in Comicsgate, and I think he's tried to review comics, but he clearly doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. But the important thing is, most important thing, the most telling thing about him is specifically involving us, is that when we originally got banned back in late 2020, and because Liam Gray false flagging our channel, we got banned, and then there was this big hoax that started going around since we had been deplatformed. People like that Umbrella Guy and some others, including Comic Hut eventually, but they felt safe to start spreading a hoax that we had doxed somebody, Sweetcast specifically, and the evidence for that completely rebuked all of that. But some of them, kept pushing it because they were just so angry that we had ever existed and that we'd criticized them and found evidence of stuff like, say, Tug being a cuckold and very evidently being a child abuser, that kind of thing. And even after that, the evidence had immediately been out that was obviously fake, but right away, Comic Hut jumped in on that. And then afterwards, and I still don't know because he's been so irrelevant and had nothing to do with anything that we've been interested in. He started pushing the story, and his source was that Umbrella Guy, who was Comicsgate, which that Umbrella Guy or Comic Hut was a guy who was trying to pride himself as being critical on Comicsgate, but he never had any insight into what was actually wrong with Comicsgate. he was clearly one of those jilted former Comicsgate supporter types who basically wished Comicsgate was real, but that it focused more around them. But yeah, so he started pushing that, and then he followed that up. Comic Hut was pushing the Sweetcast hoax, and then followed that up by trying to review our comics, which the first one, what he reviewed literally and claimed it was racist, showing that he is an SJW. Comic Book Hut objectively is an SJW, taking SJW arguments and using them unironically against a comic that I don't know. He had something personal against us for some reason, but I don't know what, because we've never paid any attention to him and never found him interesting. And maybe that's why. But on top of that, he started, he tried to review our other comics. And to show how stupid his reviews were, first, that he said literally was racist because of the way Helen speaks in it, which is completely moronic, of course, for anyone who's read the comic. If you haven't, she has kind of a mush mouthed talking because she has braces. And again, apparently to people like Comic Hut, that's racist. But then also, Villains of the Snow Sea was the other comic that we had just been coming out with, and his I can't even call it a critique, of course, because it isn't. His complaint about that, literally judging a book by its title, and his judgment was people don't want to read about villains, which is disproven, of course, by the last several thousand years of human history. I mean, if you really need me to even make an argument for why that's moronic and retarded, you may have brain damage yourself, actually. But also, like, I can understand you wanting me to hear him rip apart his stupid opinions, but at some point, there's opinions are so stupid that it's like, what can you even say about them except that they're self-evidently stupid? So that's the kind of person that Comic Hut was. But also, on top of that, he tried to use the whole situation, all of that stuff combined, to drive a wedge between us, me and my brother, and Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini, the creators of Common America, who, I mean, we've gone into that many times. We've told this story many times in the past as well. We've already done videos about that. But I always want to reintroduce context. You never know if somebody's just coming into all this stuff fresh. But yeah, Comic Hut used that to say that he literally did videos where he was trying to rip apart our comics and fucking very low IQ-ily claim that our comics were bad, which all that ever does, that's happened before, where people are like, your comics are cheap shit, and all it does is convince me that our comics are actually objectively good, because the way that works is, if you took the dumbest retard who just gets angry at absolutely nothing, and and they don't like something that you did, that's justification for you doing it alone. On top of a lot of other things, of course, but that alone actually works as proof, as evidence of moral and ontological correctness. So, yeah, Comic Hut was trying. He was doing these videos where he was trying to roast our comics very unsuccessfully and very embarrassing to himself. And at the same time, he would say, as if this was the important factor to our comics, that we weren't good friends to Tim and Mark, and that we didn't really support him. And the thing is that we had known Tim and Mark for longer than Comic Hut. We had actually been supporting them. And the very weird, if you will, and interesting thing is that we had just done a comic with Tim and Mark. Tim and Mark don't do that, by the way. They don't do comics with other people anymore. In fact, they told us basically that we would be the last people that they actually collaborate with a comic or do anything like that. But it was for Wall Might 3, the backup story. just a little 8-page mini comic, but Tim and Mark paid us to write that. And it was basically public knowledge for anyone who actually looked or knew or were really friends with Tim and Mark, which proves that Comic Hut doesn't know Tim and Mark. That he doesn't know them in any way personally. Doesn't really have any interaction with them. I think he streamed with them maybe twice, but I think it was only once. Whereas we've streamed with Tim and Mark many times from 2018 up to just last month. Actually, fucking last week. So that when I'm recording this, anyways. But yeah. So I guess Comic Hut thought he could run some kind of power play to get Tim and Mark to not like us anymore, and he thought that he would just do a video reviewing our comics and convincing them, and being like, fucking, these guys don't do anything for Tim and Mark. That is too smart of a voice. The way he talks is utterly retarded. He mumbles through all of his videos. He doesn't speak clearly. He doesn't really make any salient points. He doesn't do any retakes or anything. And he also does that thing that other really stupid, the dumbest of the dumb YouTubers do, is that they point a camera at their computer monitor to record something that they want to show on their computer, which Richard C. Meyer used to do, and even he doesn't do that anymore, which means that Comic Hut is actually a dumber version of Richard C. Meyer. But more important than that is that he's disingenuous. First of all, lying, pushing a known, refuted, and rebuked hoax, and then using that to try to get a couple of our friends to stop being friends with us anymore. Showing right there, that alone, showing that Comic Hut is a disingenuous and dishonest person. And the people who support him by that connection themselves support that behavior, which means that they themselves commit that behavior. The thing is that I know that Tim and Mark placate Comic Hut because Comic Hut has a following of some of the... That's one thing about making something, is the dumbest retards in the world may be supporting you. You can't call them out for being the dumbest. You can't criticize them because you're shedding customers intentionally. And that's one thing that I guess has always been one of the flaws of me and my brother, is we would tell people, if you're like this, fucking just go the fuck away. I don't want a psychopath. I don't want a disingenuous pathological liar, or a failed manipulative, like, embittered loser to be the kind of person who likes my comics and supports my stuff. I mean, normally I don't look at people who support my stuff. There could be any, like a fucking psychopath murderer, the Zodiac killer could be buying my comics, and I would be like, if I don't know about it, I won't say anything about it. But just don't bring that around me. And the thing is that Tim and Mark, I understand absolutely that they just stick out of it. They fucking avoid any engagement with, that kind of thing. They'll give an offhanded thanks to anyone who, talks them up or supports them. But there's, they know, especially with like what happened with Preston and the Preston Knights and stuff. Tim and Mark understand that if they don't have to call out anyone, they won't. If they don't have to speak out about anyone, even if it's someone who supports them, they won't. But they clearly just only tolerate Comic Hut. And Comic Hut doesn't understand that and thinks that Tim and Mark will actually like him when they don't. And the thing is, I don't like speaking for Tim and Mark, but it's very clear that they are just tolerating him because he's, sort of handing support to them. But meanwhile, so that's the history of Comic Hut. Fat bloated retard, basically. I could have summed it up with just that and saved all the fucking time. But the important thing is Comic Hut finally launched a Kickstarter for a comic. And it says, Captain Galaxy Into the Dawning, and the sum up, which this also made me laugh, which I almost have to give credit to Comic Hut, at least that made me laugh, is the pitch at the top says a pregnant space whale comes to Earth to give birth, and Captain Galaxy must prevent it, or the planet will be destroyed. And I screen capped this and I posted on Twitter, and I said, so it's about a hero who has to give a space whale an abortion. Sounds great. And then I also looked at all the various info and the backing info and that kind of shit. And first of all, the backing, which has gone up since I screen capped this. Maybe I'll throw the screen cap on the thing, but like some of the preview art is just fucking disastrous. It's ugly. It's not just that it's not professionally done, because I'm fine with comics that aren't professionally done. Again, me and my brother and our friends Tim and Mark, who fucking like pulling this card, but better friends than Comic Hut is with him. Because here's the thing, is that we understand, like Tim and Mark understand us and agree with us about a lot of ideas of comics. We helped influence, at least in a little way, Common America and its existence, which is a big part of why Tim and Mark, paid us to write a comic. By the way, also another very important and funny, one of my funniest, favoriteest fucking pieces of the story is that Comic Hut was doing all these videos trying to drag us or something like that. And after like a few days of this, Tim finally made public the information that me and brother had been hired to write the backup story. Tim did this big tweet where he's like, these guys did a story. They wrote a story for it. So that was the thing, is that, and I don't think this even sunk into Comic Hut's brain, because he's not smart enough. That's not me insulting him. He's objectively not smart enough to comprehend this. But Tim and Mark paid us for us to write a thing for them to draw. And I've said this before, recently in fact, is that usually you got to pay the artist to draw something that you've written. But with fucking Tim and Mark, they paid us to write the thing and then drew it for free. The thing is that we don't get any chunk of the sales of the comic, but that's fine with me. I would have done it for free actually, but Tim and Mark gave us payment at least, and that was very cool of them. They did that also to help us out and ideally to help fund a comic. But we also still got 2 issues. Villains of the Snow Sea out. Whereas again, it's funny, Comic Hut, while he was doing all that shit, he wasn't making any comics. And I think this is part of the thing, is he even said that like one of his things trying to own us was like, so are you critics or are you creators? Not realizing that most creators in history have been critics. I mean, where does Comic Hut think the French New Wave even came from? Oh wait, he doesn't know what that is. But that's the thing, is that, again, we've been making comics more successfully than him, and getting support from Tim and Mark. And there's another thing that's very awkward, and this is kind of the stuff I want to address more than the Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter is just a laugh. It's just a thing to laugh at. The other thing about Comic Hut is that he wanted to act like he could be a creator. He wasn't just a critic. So he was, trying to trash us about that, while trying to act like he could be a better creator. And again, this comic is just a perfect example. Again, Captain Galaxy, already a weird backing, weird funding so far, with only 9 backers and almost $500, which means that people are just paying out the ass for a comic that's clearly terrible. It looks terrible. Like, here's the whale. We'll look at the whale here, and just, it looks shitty. Not just that it's simple art, but it's actually bad art. And that was another thing that was showing in one of, the sort of the red line here is just the way that he's drawing the figures. It's not that it's bad, but it also is that it's ugly. The ugly style, the ugly sort of attempt at retro look that's just, awful. Trying to look like old-fashioned comics that were drawn by people who didn't really know what they're doing. But reading through the pitch, though, what makes a hero? Are they born, or do they choose to do the right thing? Conlan, a young sailor, has a great decision to make. You could tell the story's already going to be shallow, but Captain Galaxy in the Dawning, which in the Dawning sounds like a retarded, a literally retarded version of In the Beginning. It's 60 pages, 60-page black and white epic graphic novel. Now, epic fucking would have to be longer than 60 pages, to be honest. Like fucking the first 10 volumes of Berserk, I would say, is epic. That's easily 1,000 pages or so. But yeah, the guy mentions, or Comic Hut mentions, pregnant space whale is going to give birth on the planet Earth. But if that happens, the planet will be destroyed. How? Is it bigger than the planet or something? I mean, I know you're not supposed to give away the story, but none of that makes any sense. It's incoherent. Right off the bat, your pitch is incoherent. I understand it can be hard to pitch a book, but it's especially hard to describe it if you're really stupid. He says, though, the story's inspired by Jonah and the whale. So, oh yeah, it definitely sounds like it, because in Jonah and the whale was going to destroy the Earth, and Jonah fucking had to give it an abortion, apparently. Many people have found themselves in hopeless situations, and a simple thing like a prayer can be their salvation. The rest of the art is very generic looking. It's not all completely ugly, but a lot of it is jank and cheap, and doesn't look like it's made with much love. It doesn't look like it's made with any real appreciation for the comics medium or an understanding of the comics medium, which is something that, has been proven. Comic Hut doesn't understand much about the comics medium. On top of him being a disingenuous person. But he also points out, I'm excited that Bill Williams will be the letterer. He letters Soul Finder comics for Iconic Comics. So this is Comic Book Hut's attempt at trying to get an in or some kind of connection to Iconic Comics. Is he's trying to get the money to hire Bill Williams to letter the comic, because he can't hire a real artist, even though... Now, here's the funniest part, is that the goal is $10,000, and it's all or nothing. If this doesn't hit $10,000, if it hits $9,000, he won't get any funding. He will get nothing. Now, he does have 60 days to go. That's 2 whole months to scrape up $10,000. But his audience, even the audience that he has, which is some of the dumbest people on the planet, and also people who approve of pathological lying and disingenuousness and weird little interpersonal politics and power plays, where it's like, oh, but let's lose this guy a friend, and then it backfires. Oh yeah, and what happened also with the end of that story is that Tim came out with the information that me and my brother had done the comic with him, and what happened like next day is Comic Hut deleted his videos about us, and he stopped making videos for about the rest of the year. I think it wasn't the rest of the year, because that was only a couple months. He stopped doing videos entirely for several months after that. So he basically got shamed out of making videos by his own idiocy and incompetence and dishonesty. That's what Comic Hut really is. And again, all of this is just old news. Like, I don't even fucking think about Comic Hut anymore. I hadn't thought about Comic Hut in months until, again, this campaign started. But yeah, so he has 2 months to get $10,000 for his comic, or else he won't be able to make it. Even though he claims that, here down here, he says, Bill Williams will be the letterer. He letters Soul Finder for Iconic Comics. He also writes and letters Punchline, blah, blah, blah. Which, a lot of this is kind of insulting to Bill Williams. It's like, if I was Bill Williams, I wouldn't work with Comic Hut for any amount of money. I wouldn't damage my own reputation like that. I understand that you're a work-for-hire guy. If you're a fucking person who will take money, you sometimes have to be willing to work with the scum of the earth if they're paying you good money for just a regular job that you're able to do. But here's a weird thing. he mentions he writes in letters Punchline, a comic book from Antarctic Press that was featured on Free Comic Book Day 2019. Usually, Free Comic Book Day is like the dumping ground of absolute dogshit comics that are terrible. Um, but he goes on. Punchline is about a costume hero that gets fired and has to try. Why are you telling us about Punchline? Why aren't you telling us about your this Comic Hut's fucking pitch here on Kickstarter tells almost more about Punchline and Bill Williams than it does about the fucking comic that this campaign is for. The next paragraph, after starting as an inking assistant for Keith Wilson, Bill created blah blah blah. And this, he inked some pages on Batman 67. Blah, blah, blah. Find him on Twitter at Bill Williams, and then a picture of Bill Williams, and then it ends with risks and challenges. My biggest challenge for the campaign is I need the funding for the lettering, the printing, packaging, and shipping of the book. Now, if you really cared about comics, you wouldn't need to print, package, or ship it. You would just be like, here, I want the comic to just exist. Printing and shipping is a luxury. It's not. It shouldn't be seen as a requirement. If you see it as a requirement, you don't really like comics at all. You don't like the medium. You only like the status, you like the physical concept of it, but not the actual practice, not the medium, not the creation, not the content. You just think a comic is something any moron can do that you don't even need to really write. It just needs to be scribbled out, which is the attitude that is responsible. Comic Hut's attitude is the reason why comics suck. Anyways, so yeah, he says the art. Here's how his campaign page ends. The art and writing is finished and ready to go. I need you. Now he needs $10,000 from us, which I hope he gets. I hope that supporters of Comic Book Hut flush $10,000 of theirs down the toilet. But the thing is that this is also another very important. I think one of the things I was just going to mention is Tim and Mark really can't even afford visibly to support or endorse other people's comics or campaigns anymore because of people like this, because of people like Comic Hut, who will take it personally if they don't. If Comic Hut saw Tim and Mark endorse our comics and then didn't endorse Comic Hut's comics because Comic Hut's comics clearly are dog shit, then Comic Hut will hold that against them and say Tim and Mark are now enemies. Now I hate them. They're bad people now. And everyone who is watching me now don't support Tim and Mark anymore ever again. And Tim and Mark don't want to risk that. They don't want to fucking bother with getting involved with that. They've had that happen even without getting involved. They've had that happen even just being involved with us, where paying us to write a comic is part of what got Preston's fans to now hate Tim and Mark and reply. They do the mental illness replies where they will reply to completely unrelated tweets where like Tim is like, check out the cool figurines we're gonna do of Common America coming up, and then one of one of Preston's fans will suddenly reply to that and be like, well, I didn't know that you were racist and you support racists. And it's just like, out of nowhere, you're deciding to fuck with their business for no reason. People who have done nothing to you. Comic Hut would do this. Tim and Mark, I think, are pretty aware that Comic Hut would be exactly like that too. That is the kind of person that Comic Hut is. And they don't want to be involved. They don't want to fucking really drag through it, and I don't want to drag them through it either. But the thing is that, so they have to play nice to people like Comic Hut, while in reality they fucking are pretty indifferent to him. They don't go on streams with him. Comic Hut doesn't really say anything interesting. That's the real thing. Is we talk to Tim and Mark because Tim and Mark know we can talk on their level. They can say something that's interesting. We can say something that's interesting that they think about and consider and go, oh, that's interesting, and actually gives them food for thought and inspiration. Whereas Comic Hut has never said anything like that and will never inspire any other creator ever. not a fucking that's not a real leap to assume that, or not even assume, but it's just knowing it. There's been a long history of people like Comic Hut who just inspire nobody and think that they think they're fucking they think they're like Comic Hut. People like Comic Hut think they're friends with people who don't even like them. And doesn't necessarily mean that they hate him. Tim and Mark don't hate Comic Hut, but they, again, like I said, they tolerate him, and the dumb fans and dumb following that he has, they don't want to alienate. They're fine with just having them placated. But again, that comes from a deep denial of Comic Hut and his dumb fans who really can't square the circle that Tim and Mark actually like our ideas and our comics, and they liked working with us, they like streaming with us, they like talking to us and that kind of thing. And so that leads to denial, which is kind of pathological. But again, I'm still hoping that Comic Hut's comic gets to the 10,000 goal, that $10,000 goal. Now, if it does, I would still be surprised. Because Comic Hut's videos aren't interesting. He doesn't have anything interesting to say, and in fact, never has. It's not like he used to be smart, and then all of a sudden that fucking grenade went off in his hat or something like that. But anyways, moving on though, was after this got linked in our Discord, there was some reaction and analysis. So and I won't read off the people what they're saying and that kind of thing, but I'll just read off what was said. So, a few people. Someone says he wants 10K for this, napkin drawings. And then the quoting, my biggest challenge for this campaign is I need funding for the lettering, printing, packaging, and shipping. And with lol at them emoji reaction. So my brother replies to that saying, basically everything. And then the guy says, my biggest challenge would be making the book. No shit. My brother says, who the fuck needs funding for lettering? And again, money for printing. Digital requires no money for printing, packaging, or shipping. And then this guy just replies again saying 10K, as if he's in fucking shock. And my brother says, so his goal is to not make a book, with several people. True emoji reaction. I said, I unironically hope he gets it. It proves he has no idea how this will turn out, unless he intentionally wants his few remaining supporters to derisively laugh at him. Another comment says, I bet it'll be better than any Richard C. Meyer comic. He can use that as a pull quote. When you ask a 90s comic fan for a digital option, and then it's the gif of, we don't do that here, the Black Panther quote. But also, he adds right after that is, Captain Galaxy is a more generic name than anything I could have imagined. And then I say, you could tell he's a bad writer just because his hero's name is Captain Galaxy, which also is very pointed as Comic Book Hut is so low IQ and stupid that he actually thinks something like a comic called Villains of the Snow Sea, first of all, is about the villains, or it's about villains or something, and that his reaction to that is nobody wants to write a comic about villains, that's actually an accurate representation of how Comic Hut talks, except it's slightly less coherent than that. But I said, you can tell he's a bad writer because his hero's name is Captain Galaxy. You won't influence Common America with that kind of thinking. Somebody quotes the whole inspired by Jonah and the whale. It says, that's my favorite part. The most basic bitch takeaway from that story is most people have found themselves in hopeless situations, and a simple thing like prayer could be good solution. That's, again, perfect impersonation of Comic Book Hut. Anyways, so I saw the pitch as of a fucking pregnant space whale, and they said, so he has to give the whale an abortion? And somebody says he shouldn't talk about Tug's wife that way, which is also funny. Anyways, Yeah, he shouldn't have considered he shouldn't be considering that he's like-minded with Tug. He used Tug as a source because he hated us so much for some reason, which again we still don't really know. Um, Another person saying, "I'm excited. This is going to blow the Meyerverse out of the aborted space whale filled water." Um, I said people won't even remember Theosophy after Space Whale Abortion comic, which is really what this comic should have been called, is Space Whale Abortion. Um, that is definitely a more creative, interesting title than Captain Galaxy. How about Captain Place? You could have called it Captain Space. I think that's the only way to make it more generic, but then that would be like too self-aware and clever. Is calling it Captain Space. Captain Space. How about Space Prince? Oh wait, that's taken. It's pretty good, but it's taken. Um, the story ends Steven Universe style. They just ask the whale to leave nicely and hug it out. And I said, hug it out so much that the whale has an abortion. And then they replied to that saying, they abort the whale's baby and the whale forgives them. I paste some of the art, which I showed earlier, to say misshapen. And I point out something that I've said already here is the other thing Tim and Mark have to sort of hedge their public support of some other comics lately, because of guys like Comic Hut that would have a fucking meltdown over not getting promoted by them. Yeah, that's the thing. Tim and Mark can't really come out and say, "Here's a buy this comic, we support this comic, we endorse this comic, we advertise this comic." They can't really. They told me that they can't really do that anymore because of the other people who would fucking have a conniption over their comics not being publicly endorsed. So now they basically, people like Comic Hut ruining comics with the mindset that comics should be dumber and uglier and more stupid, as the kid in Tropic Thunder said, more stupid. But also that our friends in comics now sort of have to, they can help, like they can come on streams with us where we are trying to plug our comics, but again, the Tim and Mark know that these people, like Comic Hut's fans, are so tribal and so small-minded that they will not support a comic by somebody who could be making if the comic is the best comic, or not even the best comic in the world, as long as it's good, if the comic's good, they won't support it if their favorite YouTuber doesn't like that person or doesn't want you to support that comic. Unless the comic is already too popular and people can't say no. That's what tried to happen with Common America. Comicsgate tried pulling that Comic Hut move of saying, we're going to blacklist Common America. We're not going to let them on. We're not going to talk about their comics. We're not even going to acknowledge their comics exist. And people in Comicsgate, the end customer, still ended up finding out about Common America, liked it, bought it, and then got confused that Comicsgate was not supporting that. They were like, why aren't these people on? I actually saw somebody saying that Nick Rekieta should have Tim and Mark on, and I was like, I just felt so bad, but I knew I couldn't say anything because people are just so stupid and would get angry at the truth, as they always do, that Nick Rekieta is not allowed to have Tim and Mark on. That's been publicly obvious to everyone with a brain, but you know how comic book fans are. They don't have any. They ain't got no brain in their head. But yeah, the thing is, yeah. So Tim and Mark are at the. That's why they have to take any support they can get, which is what Comic Hut is any support they can get. Because they have so many blacklists against them in the SJW circles and in Comicsgate, and anyone who is supportive of the leader of Comicsgate, and Ethan Van Sciver, of course. And that's none of that is my speculation, by the way. All of it's known by everyone who knows behind this, and all the people behind the scenes talk about this, but only in private, because if you talk about it in public, all of a sudden the tribalism kicks in. The stuff that Comic Hut tried to do with Tim and Mark and us. That's what a lot of other, because that's the thing, is that Tim and Mark know that too. We've been saying that for years, is that comics, the whole comics fandom and community are mentally ill levels of tribal, to where they get angry just over the tiniest insignificant thing, usually over absolutely nothing. I think in Comic Hut's case, it was that he was jealous that we were friends with Tim and Mark. I don't know, though. I don't know for sure. In fact, nobody knows. And I think Tim and Mark don't really know, and they prefer not to even speculate when, I've brought it up to them, which I try not to, because I don't want to fucking. I'm not going to be like Comic Hut, where I'm going to tell Tim and Mark that they shouldn't be allowed to say thanks to Comic Hut in their streams or anything like that. Because that's the thing, is that I don't want to be like a person like a Comic Book Hut. I don't want to be that kind of creator. I don't want to be the kind of person who even just says stuff on YouTube like that. But meanwhile, Comic Hut has proven that he is like that. He's the kind of guy who'd say, like if he really knew that Tim and Mark liked us more than they like him, he would be like, I don't like you guys anymore. He would be that kind of person. And he would pull that same slander move on them, where he'd be like, Tim and Mark work with racists. Comic Hut absolutely is basically in a permanent holding pattern of doing that. Comic Hut is always one step away from accusing Tim and Mark of being racists or working with racists. And that's why I don't, that's why I'm not gonna fucking like anyone who even likes Comic Hut. I'm like, okay, you're a person who likes an SJW. You actually approve of SJW tactics and beliefs, and then claim that you don't, which is actually worse than the regular SJWs who just at least come out and admit it. Anyways, so somebody else mentions, who's giving him $200? These people are brain dead. I hope they're damaged enough to support this 100%. Which I almost wish I had said that, but somebody else said that, and I agreed. Anyways, I mentioned some other stuff that Tim and Mark saw Comic Hut being dishonest, which is why they had to basically shut him up. But I mentioned that Comic Hut actually has real fans, but they're all former Comicsgate supporters. They're like the jilted former Comicsgate customer who feels like they somehow I don't know. I don't know what their expectation of Comicsgate was supposed to be, but Comicsgate was exactly what they wanted it to be. It was what people like Comic Hut wanted it to be, which is a leader makes dictates. He knows how a dictates as well, and then he tells people what they can and can't think, and that's what Comicsgate wanted all along. The thing is that it just backfired on. It became a PR nightmare. So people in Comicsgate, some of them left and acted like, well, we don't like our leader. We don't like... Basically that they didn't like Ethan. But they still essentially wanted everything the way it turned out. They're just not smart enough to admit it. So that's why... And we said that for years now, was that the former Comicsgate people, the former... The new antis or something, are basically as bad as Comicsgate because they are the same thing. They're Comicsgate supporters, not customers. Pretty much none of them are actually customers. They don't buy comics and they don't read comics. Comicsgate doesn't read comics. That's always been true. What they're buying is politics and copium. They're buying the placation. They're buying being told what they want to hear, being fed the lies and the bullshit that makes them feel better. And the comic book is just a way to sell that. It's to sell the placation. It's to sell the copium. Anyways, One Piece's volumes, a high demand book. They're around 200 pages each. Go for $10 in the States. He wants $20 for a 60-page black and white book. Someone else says, if he doesn't hit 10K, it doesn't get made? ? Which, yes, by the way. But he says, I would be willing to give you guys $5 towards purchasing a copy, maybe even 10. How does that make you feel? and then female shrug emoji, which is a reference to Ethan Van Sciver, how Ethan would compulsively put in the a frog emoji, gay rainbow, gay flag, or gay rainbow emoji, and then a woman shrugging emoji. And then we started making fun of him for doing that in every single tweet, and he stopped doing it, which people actually noticed. Again, when I say all of this shit, when I say anything about what other people do, it's not because I think so or I noticed it. It's because other people noticed it and told us. Like multiple other independent sources have verified every word out of my mouth. And every word out of me and my brother's mouths for the past several years consistently. You will never find that anywhere else. So, not to end, I'm not ending the video yet, but orange you glad you listen to shitty webcomics, because you get to keep up with the people who are always right, because again, we're being verified by multiple independent sources. Anyways, so yeah, I replied to that about the 10K goal, which again, it even says at underneath it, all or nothing. This project will only be funded if it reaches its goal by Friday, July 22nd, 2022 at 8:37 p.m. EDT. I really can't wait. In a way, can't wait to see that it doesn't hit that goal, and then fucking he could still get it out because he's saying all he needs is the lettering. But I have a feeling he thinks he gets to pocket any amount of this money, and I don't want to clue him in that he won't, because I want him to think that he will and not. I think that would be funny. It would be very deserved for, a disingenuous person deserves to have that happen to them, objectively, on an objective and ontological moral level. But I think I have a feeling he thinks it's like the Indiegogo flexible funding. And I said, maybe it is. And then in parentheses, it's not, but I don't want him to learn. Someone says, I bet it's not as bad as Ironsides. Possibly it's more gay, though. Somebody else says, for $20, Hut had better have a grand tale in 60 pages, but I doubt it. It's going to be a Pray the Whale Away book. Someone else says, move over Mike S. Miller and John De La Rose. Someone else says, it would be better than those two. I say, it's going to be like Cyberfrog without all the cross-hatching. Someone else says, compared to Lone Star and Deus Vult, I mean, the time I was reincarnated in the Crusades and committed several war crimes, the Hutt's whale book will be a masterpiece. Someone else says, giving a pregnant space whale an abortion, it's already more creative than anything Miller or De La could come up with. De La is a very nice way of referring to John De La Rose. Anyways, I also follow that with, I hope Comic Hut supporters flush $10,000 down the drain for his comic, but it's pretty obvious he won't get funded, and he probably doesn't know if he doesn't hit the goal, he won't get any of the money. He'll be shocked to find out, wait, I thought I'd be able to keep whatever I got. Someone else says, Kickstarter screwed me. But also, I point out, even asking for $10,000 reveals more about Comic Hut's mental capacity than all the other retarded shit he said. He'll be like, I'm going to start a GoFundMe to sue Kickstarter for keeping the money I made on my comic campaign. Someone else says he must have thought it was 1,000, but couldn't count the zeros right. Someone else says it's going to have something about baseball in it. I bet someone hits a home run right into the blowhole. I post the thing about Bill Williams and say it's a giant insult to Bill Williams. Wait, guys, I know why his book is black and white. His avatar has his coloring, and then somebody shows a color version of the promo pic, and it looks like it's fucking done in child's pose marker. Even he couldn't pass this on to his followers. And it said the smartest decision he's made in his life. It's a low bar, of course. Anyways, I'll also read the end part and say, so the book is finished except for the lettering, and he's not going to just do that himself and release that. Something stinks about that excuse, which I think I might have figured that out. Is he just wanted to hire someone from Iconic because he wants to act. It's his way of trying to act like he's friends with Tim and Mark. Is if he hires somebody who has a comic at Iconic for like the lowest rung, cheapest job humanly possible. And I'm sure Bill Williams doesn't really have any clue about Comic Hut being a disingenuous SJW type who's, you know, dishonest and slimy and sleazy and fucking scammy and pushing hoaxes and lying and getting caught about it and having to back off and slink away in embarrassment. But you know that's other people's business. Like the one thing I've always thought for many years, decades, you could say, is if somebody else is going to walk into a mistake and I'm not friends with them, I'll just let them. I don't care. I'm not going to warn them because if I warn them and they go, "Good, you're fucking," you know, whatever, then it's like, okay, it wasn't even worth it. It's better to let you walk into the mistake or something. Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna fucking go to anyone and be like, you know, Comic Hut did this and this, and I have evidence of it. Or the thing is that, what am I gonna do? Spend my time digging up evidence for something that everyone saw happen? And of course, what am I gonna find? How do I find evidence of somebody deleting a video that everyone saw it deleted at the time, but that was 2 years ago. I'm not gonna go find like here this video was deleted. Where is it? Well, it's deleted, so I can't show it to you. Um, all you can do is you can either fucking take my word for it or be wrong, which is how most of everything I say turns out. Is you have to take my word for it or you're wrong because everything I say is basically has been backed up. If I ever get any detail wrong, it's usually a minor detail that is still summing up the big picture, anyways. I have had that happen a few times, but again, it was just over something really minor. Um, so anyways, yeah, he says that he's done drawing it. I don't know if he's inking it or getting someone else to. And I said, well, with $10,000, he could get someone else to do all the art from scratch. Um, Someone else says, why doesn't he just do the lettering in Crayola markers like a real artist? Um, and someone else says, I could see this being an Allegiance Arts book. There's another pull quote Hut can use. Hut, you're doing it wrong. Captain Galaxy has Walmart written all over it. Um, Someone else says Walmart wants to compete with Marvel Comics and take some of that Captain Miss Marvel success. Um, Another person says the way that image of the character looks, it seems like his body ends at his stomach or something. The perspective makes it look like the floor is at his crotch level. Um, and someone else says to that, you just don't understand the high abstract nature of his art, man. The galaxy is a strange and wonderful place. Um, and someone else says, I don't know what the fuck is going on with this character and all the weird designs, if he's a robot or what, but if he's fighting a space whale, it's already ahead of Mike Miller's Captain America knockoff. Um, Another person says the coloring looks Chris Chantier. Um, Someone else says he's drawing how he feels. The rain evokes a sadness that he tries to escape by impregnating a whale. I say the emotional evocation of it. Um, Someone else says this is secretly a Tug biography. He needs to release more of it if it's really done. Um, I need to see the introduction at least. I don't think anyone will understand the story because it's so poorly drawn, and he refuses to learn how to make text boxes digitally. But this is something the world needs to know about. Um, Also, my screen cap that I paid, I just posted here in the chat, and it's the highest tier is $250 or more, a whale of a deal. Each backer will receive blah blah blah. And here's what it includes: Captain Galaxy 8 by 11 print, Captain Galaxy graphic novel, which is it. That's part of the joke. People used to fucking laugh at graphic novel as like clearly just a way of trying a pretentious way of trying to act like comic books are more important than they are. But 4 sketch cards in color, Captain Galaxy 8x11 print in color. So there's two. There's Captain Galaxy 8x11 print, and then another 8x11 print in color. Then Captain Galaxy poster in color, which is basically like another print. And then one original 10x15 black and white drawing. Which, why would you want a drawing from somebody who draws like this? But yeah, this guy says, I love the 8x11 print. Fucking printer paper. You get 2 prints. One is black and white. The other's the same, but it looks like my niece scribbled on it. And I said, finally something to put Cyberfrog's fluting to shame. 4 sketch cards, in case you thought the original book art here is clearly too good. And somebody points out, which is a great point, he limited this tier to 4, which is only $1,000. I think he legit forgot how many zeros were in 1,000. And I said, well, this is clearly only one tier, or this is only one tier. Clearly, when combined with all the other tiers, that will add up to $10,000. He's just going to roll with it and pretend he didn't fuck it up. Someone else said that. And I said, he clearly did the math. He added all the tiers, and all he has to do is sell every single tier, and he'll have $10,000, and that'll be enough to do all of the things. And then I also say, I think it's possible he'll pull the campaign and put it back up with either a lower goal or flexible funding. If he listens to us, he'll do that. He should listen to us. We're better at this than he is. After all, Tim and Mark aren't going to hire him to write a comic for them. That deserves to be rubbed in. Somebody links to his YouTube video about it. And in it, they watched. It was 5 minutes. I didn't watch it, but they did. And they say, I'm still waiting for the cover. I can't wait to see the cover he commissioned some poor artist to draw. And then a reply to me on Twitter saying, imagine the resale value of an original limited print run of Comic Hut's comic book. I know my friends will be impressed when they ask, who the heck is this guy? And I show them a video of his mumbling incoherent nonsense for 10 minutes straight. Which, even that is almost too kind of a description of his videos, of course. But, also for his Indigo, or for his crowdfunding, for his Kickstarter, somebody says he didn't even take the time to record a clean take. He just stutters along and fucks up every other sentence. I said, a 5-minute video for something that should only take 2 minutes tops. And I linked to one of our trailers for the Literally 2 campaign, and I say, this is 20 seconds. Somebody else, the guy who was watching the video, I guess, says 10K, he meant to do it. His goal was intentional, and people laughed at that. And I said, to be honest, this is the least surprising thing of all. When I saw his goal was 10K, I knew that wasn't an accident. I linked to the Literally 1 promo trailer, the one with the nice mod reading, and it says, this is 1 minute 25 seconds for the comic that Comic Hut called racist, which sounds like a very SJW thing to say. Somebody else saying, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but that he was stupid, but not that stupid. He better give the letterer a sizable chunk. Was he the same one who said the VOTS cover was bad because she was brown and the snow was blue, or was that Liam Gray? Probably both. I said, no, he's that stupid. You can hear it in his voice. He unironically has real-life brain damage. He can barely talk. And if you mean the first VOTS cover, yeah, I think that was Comic Hut, and him saying that proved it was a good cover, which is also objectively true, ontologically true. And then I bring up this picture of Comic Hut, of just his face, which looks like he's a mouth breather. He looks kind of deformed, even wearing like a mask and a handkerchief around his chin and a hat. He looks like an utter moron. Visibly, he has idiocy physiognomy. But also I point out about the Villains of the Snowsea cover. Tim liked the cover. Who should I trust more? An accomplished, successful artist, or a retard who deletes his videos after he gets caught lying and embarrassing himself? And then I fucking post the video of Comic Hut and I say, physiognomy check. Someone says he couldn't find a mask that would hide his nose. which doesn't just look big, it looks swollen and bulbous, like it's bad genes. Um, Someone else says the book should be done, but he has a December deadline. He probably won't even make that. And I said 6 months to letter a 60-page comic book. That's very smart of Comic Hut. You see, he's hedging his bets. That's like 10 pages a month. Some say that lettering is the hardest job in all comics. Oh wait, no, no one says that. And then someone else says letterers say that, but they're worse than writers. Letterers don't actually say that either. But it's kind of the book, the joke about writers, being overrated, and like how comic fans and comic creators, especially artists, despise writers. We talked about that in our latest stream with Tim and Mark. Um, Someone else says, wouldn't lettering be easy in the digital age? And someone else says, lettering is the most brain dead part of making comics. 20 pages shouldn't take you more than 2 days tops. In response to they're worse than writers, I said, I didn't think that was possible. Um, Also, in response to wouldn't lettering be easy in the digital age, somebody else says, yes, there's still rules and skill to make it look nice, but it's not the intense work of the past. Someone else in the art pipeline can handle doing the lettering now, even if you just toss a few more bucks per page at them. If you're drawing digitally, there's no reason to not have dialogue on the page from the start for placement. Um, Somebody else points out lettering was the most difficult job back when they were making books like the Book of Kells before printing press and very few people could read. That was a long time ago. Imagine getting into comic books and becoming a professional letterer. Your job exists because everyone else was too lazy and exhausted to bother. Um, I point out the penciler for literally to just paste the text on the page where she made space for it, which is extremely useful because now the word placement is part of the composition from the beginning. Instead of clueless dolts like Ethan Van Sciver, who still doesn't understand how to make comics after 25 years and just squeezes in dialogue after the page has been colored, even if there's no good space for it. And then people bring up the Book of Kells and that kind of thing, or the Secret of Kells. The Secret of Kells. There it is. Yeah, and it's like, oh, animated feature. So people talk about that and bring that up for a while, and so it's a good, worthwhile discussion of that too. But I think somebody else mentions fucking Comic Hut before the end. Oh yeah, fucking. I'm sure Comic Hut's. Warner said they were limiting budgets for streaming movies to 35 million. All way more important than Comicsgate. Basically, the whole conversation about the Secret of Kells and animated movies and Up got brought up and nominated for an Oscar and all that kind of shit. But this guy says, I'm sure Comic Hut's. Or this guy says, all way more important than Comicsgate. And then he says, I'm sure Comic Hut's comic will eclipse them all. Disney will buy the rights for $100 million. And I say, when Comic Hut's campaign makes over $1 more billion, it's gonna be part of the fucking the Comic Hut sweep. It will overtake Morbius easily. Anyways, so yeah, that just sums up a funny thing I thought that would make some good content. Just a sort of off the cuff video tonight that was some funny content. And again, we'll be looking forward to seeing how I legitimately want to see his campaign make thousands of dollars, and then for him to not get 1 cent of that because it didn't reach the $10,000 goal. I really have no idea what he's thinking, or like. Here's what I'll end on this note is that I had another comic that I had finished called I finished writing it. It was called Inevitably Doomed, and it was like 35 pages. It was kind of short, but a little longer than a regular one shot sort of. And in order to get it made, I would need like minimum $6,000. So I made an Indiegogo for $6,000 goal, and I made it so I wouldn't get any of the money if it didn't get the funding. And it didn't even get $1,000. But the thing is that I wanted to just see if it would sort of take off on its own, that kind of thing. And I tried to message people to see if I could get the word out, and um, I think Tim Lim actually donated to that one, and a few other people did, but it didn't hit the goal, so I didn't take any of the money for it. And the comic, it might have to hopefully still get made in the future. The timeliness of it was back then, but it's in a way always timely, and possibly me and my brother will give it another rewrite in the future. And it would be nice to have that made. It's definitely a better written comic than the Jawbreakers, anything by Richard, anything by Ethan, anything by any of Ethan's friends, anything by Comic Hut. I'm not saying that to try and gloat. I'm saying that because it's objectively quantifiable, in ways that people don't really know how to quantify it, or that it's objective. But it's worth pointing out. Anyways, so yeah, the I'm hoping to see this get a lot. Now, that's the thing though, is that somebody offered to give us money to fucking back the comic so that we could get a copy. The thing is that getting a copy, $1 gets you nothing. Only you have to donate $20 to even get the book. I wouldn't pay $20 for this, and even if somebody else gave us $20 to put towards this, I would see it as a waste, especially because it's not going to get collected. I would just end up fucking pocketing the $20. It's a good way to fucking get people to give me $20, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, Za, as usual, unlike share, whatever, I don't know. This is just, I'm going to probably put this up for the $1 tier because, again, it's just a solo off the cuff video. So, good job listening to Shitty Webcomics.